Guys, coming to you live with a little bit of training on this beautiful afternoon, evening about how to get leads for your coaching business, how to close people, how to think about the online ecosystem as a whole as it relates to growing your business. So there's a lot of confusion when you just get on Facebook and Instagram, and then there's Messenger, and there's comments, and there's so much overwhelm. What do you post, right? And a lot of people are thinking about that as far as the philosophy goes, very wrong. So I'm here to clear that up for you guys tonight. And so, and drop your questions down below. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this somewhere else, if you're like listening to this on the podcast or something, you need to be in our Facebook group. It's called The Aligned Coach. Go join that so you can be on these live trainings. And if you're watching this live, drop your questions down below. I need some water. Okay, so I want you guys to imagine for a second that there is no internet. Because there didn't used to be internet, right? Yet somehow businesses still thrived. Businesses still made money. They still got leads. They closed sales. And so when the internet came along, it made things so much easier from a business perspective, but it also totally muddied the waters, and it just like almost created this overwhelm of like, well, what do I do with Facebook? Like I feel like some business owners are probably still advertising in the yellow pages just because they're intimidated by the internet and all the different social media platforms. So let's go back. Let's take a trip back in time to before the internet existed. How did people get leads? How did people close deals for their business? Well, one really common way is they went to networking events. Okay, I used to go to networking events as a real estate wholesaler, looking to connect with buyers for my deals, right? And I'd hang out and I'd shake hands and I'd pass out my business cards. And I'd often, get stuck in a lot of conversations I didn't want to be in, and it was very inefficient. But that was the best way to do that. I mean, this is when the internet did exist. I could have been doing things better, but before the internet, that's one of the main things people did. People used to rent out like the conference room at the Hampton Inn on a Thursday night and bring sandwiches, and teach people and then pitch their business to them, right? That's literally what they did. Or hold networking events and meetups, right? Where everyone's just talking, shaking hands. And so if you had a business, if you had a coaching business, you wanted to help people solve a certain problem, and you were at a networking event for that kind of thing. And so you're going around, you're like, I can help businesses with their marketing or whatever. What would you do then if the internet didn't exist? What most people would do is they'd make the rounds, they'd introduce themselves to a lot of people, they'd find out about them. What do you do? Oh, that's cool. What's like your goal with that, right? What are some of the biggest challenges you have? And then you might offer a few bits of advice and feedback, but then you're also going to say, hey, I would love to talk to you about this in more depth, but I've got to kind of make the rounds here, because you wouldn't want to just hone in on that one person the whole night, right? You'd want to meet a lot of people, make a lot of connections. So you say, hey, here's my business card. Why don't we do coffee one day next week? Let's talk about, your business challenges in a little bit more depth. I think I can shed some insight, right? And then you might make the rounds. You might meet 4, 5, 6, 7 more people that night that, you're thinking in the back of your mind, I could probably help this person. And you'd exchange business cards with them. You'd set up a phone call or an in-person meeting at a coffee shop or something. Go have lunch with them to talk more about their challenges in more depth with that one person, right? And then the next week would come around, and what would you do? You'd attend those meetings. You'd meet up with a bunch of people, 6, 7 people that you met at the networking event. You do 15, 20-minute meetings with each person at the coffee shop. You just kind of revisit what you talked about. So you said your goal with this. You said your biggest challenge is this. Why do you think that hasn't worked in the past? What's going to happen if you don't fix this? Here's like the top 3 things that I see wrong with what you're doing. And, by the way, I got to run pretty soon here, but this is what I specialize in. This is what I help people with. I have a program that helps people solve the problem that you have. Would it make sense for us to schedule a time to sit down and talk about that program in more detail? So you'd say something like that at the end of your little coffee shop meeting. Okay, if you knew what you were doing. You might have butchered this, right? But it's better to let it naturally evolve this way and not teach so much that people think they've solved their problem. There's a lot of little nuance to what I'm talking about, but at the end of the day, this is generally what people did before the internet. That's where we're really trying to go with this. Then, so a certain percentage of the people you met at the networking event would qualify to do a coffee shop meetup, and then a certain percentage of them would qualify to sit down and do like a formal presentation where you actually go over your program, what it does, and how it can help them. And then they can say yes or no, I do or I do not want to buy your program. And then certain percentage of those people will buy if you are good at sales, and then you have a client, right? That's a snapshot of what it would look like if the internet did not exist. You only had phone, you had, a car, and, paper and pencil, I guess, right? This is how business was done. And so let's tie all this together. Let's go back to the world we live in today where there is internet, and let's think about how does what I just talked about exist but online. And I'll tell you how. I'm just going to make it real simple for you, okay? The networking event is Facebook. More specifically, it's Facebook groups, okay? That is where you go and, like for coaches, there's so many huge groups, Facebook groups of people that want to be coaches, right? And so that's like a constant networking event almost that's always going on at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's somebody awake checking Facebook. So you can post in your group, you can post in other groups that hold your ideal client. And that is you like going around a networking event, starting conversations. Okay? And then someone might comment on your post, or they might add you as a friend or message you, or maybe because of their comment, you'll message them. But then you're going to go into in Messenger a little bit about what do you do, what's your goal, what's the challenge with that, right? That's you having the conversation at the networking event. You really want to take that off the group and into Messenger, and then you've got somebody over to the side and you're talking to them one-on-one instead of, talking in groups. And then if you, feel like you can help them in Messenger, you'd say, hey, why don't we hop on like a 15-minute call tomorrow? I can shed some light on some of the things you're struggling with. That 15-minute call is the 15-minute coffee shop meetup. Okay? Just a quick call. They call it a triage call in the coaching industry. Then you get on that call. If you feel like you can help them, you say, hey, would it make sense for us to do another call? I have a program I can tell you about that would solve the problem you have. And then that's a strategy session. In the offline world, they must have called them like sales presentations. I don't know what they called them back in the day. But if you're catching what I'm throwing up there, then you'll see that the online world exists in the same way that the offline world exists and used to exist. The offline world is now online. Okay? And Facebook groups are the network. Messenger is the conversation you're having with them. A short 15-minute call is like getting lunch or coffee. And then a longer call is like the sales presentation. And luckily, you guys can do all this from the computer. You don't have to leave. You can use Zoom and your phone and Facebook, and you can build a thriving coaching business. You can build a business that does, well into the 6 figures range. You can build a business that changes lives, and you don't have to get stuck at networking events, handing out business cards, getting cornered by people who you don't want to talk to. So times are good as long as you understand how to think about the online world, and you realize the online world is just a representation of how sales used to be done in the offline world. You got to see it though. It's got to click. You got to understand how to progress a relationship, how to break the ice with someone, how to investigate their situation, and how to propose the next step, and then propose the next step after that. If you get it, then you're good. And finding leads for your coaching business and getting strategy calls should not be a big challenge for you. Cool. Hope this has been helpful for you guys. If you want some help on starting a 6-figure coaching business that you love, and you can serve the right clients and solve the right problems that you already are excited about getting up and working on every day to solve for yourself, because that's the only way to do it right, then go to brianellwood.net/call, grab a call with a member of our team, and let's just have a chat about what you're thinking about. If it feels right, we can tell you about our program. You can decide if it's something you want to join or not. It's definitely going to be worth your time no matter what you decide. So brianellwood.net/call. We will see you guys there. Hope this has been helpful. Peace.